Dispose of the old.
Yes, yes. So I tried to take it to the cemetery and you think it's got Jeremy gave us a very. Yes, it was very.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If we could make a start, we've got a bit of a tight schedule tonight. Thank you for attending this extraordinary meeting. Really nice to see such a good turnout, especially when we started a bit early, so thank you for that. I'll start with Chairman's announcements. Just to remind everybody, this meeting is being streamed to the internet, so please speak loudly and clearly. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak, and please can only one person speak at a time. Mobile phones need to be switched off or silenced. Any other Chairman's announcements? Apologies for absence.
Chairman, for Councillor Gale for an approved reason.
I propose we accept that apology. Seconded by Doug. Thank you. Those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Received declarations of interest. None. Thank you, councillors. Public session. No members of the public present. Item 5, approve the minutes of meeting held on the 6th of May, not the 8th, as stated on the agenda. Any comments or questions? Can I propose we accept them as a true record? Thank you. Seconded by Craig. Are those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. Now, item 6 then, this is the reason we've had the extraordinary meetings tonight, because there's a timescale attached to this, and this is something that all council needs to decide upon. So I'll take it in order. 6A, to receive a final internal audit report. Anything you wanted to say, Greg, before we?
No, Chairman, obviously, defected members like to discuss this now, but obviously, generally, this does go to P&E Committee for detailed consideration next cycle.
Any comments or questions, councillors? Okay, do we need a resolution here?
I think so. I think it'd be nice just for the record, because the auditors are very funny.
Yeah. So can I propose we receive the final internal audit report as presented, seconded by Philip. Thank you. Those in favour? Okay, it's carried. And B, suggested action plan.
Spelling mistakes. Appreciate it, Chairman, I'm aware.
That's probably kind of. Okay. Any comments or questions? Anything you wanted to say, Greg, in terms of absolutely.
Chairman, just the members are now putting the applications to do the online banking, so hopefully we'll be able to get that going very quickly.
Anything, councillors? Okay, happy? Again, do we need a resolution?
Yes,
Can I propose we approve the action plan? Thank you, seconded by Craig. Those in favour? And that's carried. Thank you. To approve the annual government statement, we'll look at C now. Any comments or questions? We made it pretty well, I think, as usual. Anything to add, Greg? Going to my proposal to accept. Seconded by Philip. Those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. And likewise, the annual return accounting statement. Comments, questions, proposition? I'm not going to do all of it. I'll go with it. I'll propose we accept. Sorry. Philip seconded. Those in favour? Paul.
Just a query, I don't know what it comes under, but on page 6, there's an earmarked reserves.
Yes.
I don't know what part that comes under, but I was wondering what the commuter sum for Kingsley Farm is for. It's just a very embarrassing question.
No, it's come up many times before. Yeah, sorry.
Right, so just to remind members, the council was offered 5 years ago to take on the open space for a recently completed development. And because the council needed to find some money at the time for various projects, CCTV, new electric vehicle, etc., it seemed a quite wise thing to take on because we were going to get about £400,000 and we only had to maintain a site which cost £7,000 a year to maintain. So if you look at it like, it was a good deal for the council at the time. So since then, the council spent some of that. It's put, as you can see, it's put some into an earmark reserve for CCTV. It also put some into an earmark reserve to help with miscellaneous repairs. It spent some other things on some capital items. And basically, that is what is left over that has not yet been allocated to anything. It's a good question, but it's not done.
What's the history of Kingsley Farm? Where does it originate and why,
I mean,
why
what's-
are we
what's-
committing money to it?
Can I say that's not relevant to the item on the agenda tonight, so can we're not really.
I'm happy to take that offline.
Okay, thank you.
There's nothing exciting about it.
No, it probably predates many of the people around the
Okay, no, yeah.
Okay, anything else, councillors? So I think we've got to E, so to reappoint Mike Cratton as the interim auditor. I assume we're happy with everything in that respect, and everything went well.
I propose we reappoint.
Thank you, seconded by Kate was there, okay. Those in favour? And that's carried, thank you. And finally, can I propose we refer detailed consideration of the accounts to the P&E Committee? Seconded by Trevor, thank you, those in favour? Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the formalities of all that annual stuff. So we're now item 7. This is to receive a presentation in relation to Hilland. We're joined by Katie Lamb, Steve O'Halloran and Adam King. So I'd like to hand over to you guys. So about 20-minute presentation and questions after. We'll keep business type questions for these councillors to try and finish on time. On my wall. You want to direct yourself forward about it.
That's going to ask where a billing first that is.
Thank you very much, all. I appreciate you allowing us to speak today. I'm Katie Lamb, I'm a planning director at Stratton Parker, and I represent Reside Development. I've got Steve O'Halloran, the land director, on my one side, and I have Adam King from SE Architecture on the other. It's a bit of a team effort today, so hopefully we'll cover all bases, and then at the end, please do ask us any questions, and we'll try and answer them. So the reason we're here today is to present to you our evolving scheme for land north of Hilland Road. At the moment, the scheme is for around 93 units, but Adam will talk you through the scheme evolution so far and where we are today. But importantly, to seek your feedback as representatives of the local community, and also to provide to ask any questions so that we can educate you in what we've done so far prior to submission of any planning application when we get to that stage. Steve, do you want to continue on an introduction?
Yeah, fine. Chair, councillors, thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak with you this evening. Whilst Adam and Katie will go through the planning and design aspects of the proposal in further detail, I just wanted to spend a few minutes to introduce Reside to you and explain how we like to work with local communities and key stakeholders. As Katie mentioned, my name is Steve O'Halloran. I'm a land director at Reside Developments. We're a strategic land promoter and have been involved in a number of schemes locally. Some of you may be aware of two of our recent schemes, land at Duckmore, which we received planning permission for 83 homes, and land east of Billingshurst, where we were part of the consortium that delivered the new link road alongside 475 homes. On both of those projects, we met with the parish council before submitting any planning application, and we're here this evening for the same reason, to introduce our emerging proposals at Hilland Road and to start a conversation with you at an early stage. We've been working with the landowner at Hilland Farm for a number of years and promoted the site to Horsham District Council's local plan process. During that time, we've carried out a range of technical assessments, including landscape, highways, heritage, trees, and drainage, all of which have helped form the design we're presenting today. We've also carried out pre-application submission with Horsham District Council, and the proposals have continued to evolve throughout with the officers over the last few months. It's important to stress, very important, what we're presenting tonight isn't a finished scheme. We're still listening, we're still reviewing the scheme, and we're still refining the proposals. We genuinely want to work with the parish council and the local community to understand any concerns and identify any opportunities to improve the scheme where we can. A key part of our approach is putting landscape and green infrastructure at the heart of our developments. We want new development to sit comfortably within its surroundings and, wherever possible, leave environmental benefits through new planting and habitat creation and biodiversity improvements. We fully appreciate that proposals for new housing often raise questions and concerns, and that's completely understandable. What we're keen to do is engage openly as early as we can, in the hope that whatever your initial views may be, we'll continue to work with us throughout the process. We'll also be carrying out wider public consultation in due course with the rest of the parish, and we'll take their feedback on board as part of any proposal moving forward. So thank you for your time this morning, this afternoon. Really do appreciate it. And Adam and Katie will go through the finer planning and design aspects of the scheme. Yeah.
Thank you.
Plug myself in for Adam.
Thank you. I'll just run through a bit of the planning background, although you'll probably know just as much of it as me. I think we sent you a plan just showing you the context of the site and the boundaries, and you'll know that the site is north of Hilland Road. It is outside the settlement boundary, we recognise that, and that it isn't allocated in the adopted development plan, that being Horsham's local plan and any neighbourhood plan. But as you'll know, Horsham's current local plan is out of date, and in light of a delay to their local plan review, they're also falling short of 5-year housing land supply, also in part to do with water neutrality, of course, which was a significant constraint to development, and this coming forward previously, I should add. And with all that in mind, we decided it was time to consider progressing the planning application. And for both those reasons, all those reasons, is why we're here today. As Steve said, it's not a fait accompli, but we have to do an element of work to get to a stage that we're presenting something to you that is actually feasible and suitable as well. The site in planning policy terms is actually relatively unconstrained. It's currently in agricultural use, and it's well contained by quite strong tree boundaries, particularly woodland to the east. But recognising that woodland as well, we have provided some quite strong buffers of around 15 metres to that woodland. It's not at risk of flooding. There are some small pockets of surface water flooding, but they're in relation to the drainage ditches that already exist on site rather than any other reasons. There is an attractive tree line running through the site. This would be retained. We're enhancing it as part of any proposals in terms of its quality from a tree perspective, but obviously ecology perspective as well. But more than that, it provides an attractive setting for any new development as well. Elephant in the room is pylons and electricity cables running along the front of the site. We can't get away from that, and development isn't proposed in that area, of course. But what that does also provide us with is an opportunity to provide quite a nice landscape corridor, recreational space, quite active recreational space, so I won't step on Adam's toes, but also biodiversity net gain as well. Alongside the work that we've been doing on an application, as Steve touched on, we have been engaging with the local plan, and particularly in relation to the reinstatement of the local plan examination in public. We provided further information to Horsham's policy team, and we attended the examination in public. We know, as I'm sure you do, that they need to go away and look whether or not they can identify new sites and whether there's capacity to do so. We hope, although we're biased, that given the sustainability, suitability of the site and the quite considerable change in planning context to the immediate site locality, that we would be successful in a site allocation. That's not come from the council, that's what we hope, but ultimately the decision is on them. I just mentioned the context of the site, and you will already know this, but it's changed quite considerably since the site originally promoted the site through the local plan, with Dartmoor committed to the south, the land to Hilland House for 125, and of course the other applications that have just been given a resolution to grant at the Billingshurst Business Park as well. And we can put that on screen in a moment. But with all of that in mind, it now seems like, do you want to move on to the next slide? It might be quite helpful. And actually, the number one scheme, there is an alternative scheme which actually drops some business employment use further south as well. But we hope that the site is a logical infill to all of that development going on at the moment. As Steve mentioned, we have progressed pre-application discussions with Horsham. They were broadly positive and quite well received. The layout that was submitted was for just over 100 units. Adam will talk you through that shortly. It was informed by technical evidence and assessment. We've been working very closely together as a consultant team. But although we did get fairly good feedback from the council on the layout and design, there was some technical feedback which we've sought to address through the evolution of the layout, particularly around landscaping strategy. But in relation to the principle, the council did acknowledge that at the moment, I appreciate it's a point in time, there is a shortfall in housing line supply and tilted balance supplies. And that I think in their words, the proposal would be in effect sandwiched between existing and committed development, which provides a definable boundary to the site, and obviously Billingshurst being a sustainable settlement as well. As part of that process, you may well be aware that Horsham are now engaging with local board members as part of pre-app. We don't know what comments are from which members, but we have had some feedback in relation to providing good connectivity to the village. With that in mind, we have looked at whether or not we can provide a more formal crossing point. There is a crossing point there already, whether or not we can formalise that. We have looked at some designs and we need to explore whether highways would support that. High quality design, this will be a detailed planning application, so through the planning application, through the scheme that will show you can see the quality of the design, and that we give thoughtful consideration to the landscaping buffer, and actually we've given quite considerable thought to how we treat that frontage area. We also have positive pre-app from West Sussex Highways, and as Steve mentioned, we will undertake public consultation at the appropriate time as well. But that's enough from me. And I can perhaps turn to you to talk through the more important details of the scheme.
Absolutely. Steve, if you wouldn't mind going on one slide. What I thought I'd do is talk you through the initial scheme that we came up with for pre-application, for our pre-application meeting, and then follow on to the scheme as it's evolved, so you can see the changes that we've proposed. So this is the initial scheme that we went to have a pre-application meeting with Horsham. 103 dwellings. It was typified by a sort of north-south divide through the site, which was created by the tree line and the ditch that runs through the centre. That is a feature that we wanted to retain in its entirety, and we worked quite hard to avoid the loss of any trees or hedgerows on the site at all, whilst dealing with a number of quite key issues. Next to point 3 on the layout there, you can see a sort of a north-south route, and that's the route of the existing public right-of-way that crosses Hilland Road and goes into the wider Billingshurst settlement. So that was really key in our design, to make sure that was a primary route and that the vehicular route into the scheme deferred to it. So you can see a new proposed vehicular route, which we've had sort of tested with West Sussex to the west of it, and that then meanders into the scheme. On the pre-application scheme, that was past a 2.5-storey flat block, which we wanted to use as a definition point, an entry point to the scheme, a way of creating a legible space and a route that diverted either sort of north or south, either side of that tree line. To the north, we had a series of predominantly semi-detached and detached dwellings that utilised the falls on the site to sort of go down to the eastern edge, where we were positioning a balancing pond. All of the balancing ponds are on the eastern edge because the site naturally falls along to that side. And they create quite a nice setting for the potential homes to have active frontage and also a high quality frontage. The south of the site, so below the tree line runs through the centre of the site, we were looking to work with the land that is left over after the consideration of the electric pylon and the exclusion zone that we're required to provide. So the exclusion zone you can probably just about see as a hatched area running across that southern part. It's a very significant exclusion zone because it has to allow for the maximum possible swing of the electric cables, and they can swing in high winds quite quite wide. So none of the dwellings are allowed to go anywhere near that zone. But what it does create is an opportunity for a really nice sort of landscape feature along the south of the site that meanders through to the balancing pond, that takes advantage of the surrounding landscaping and that links visually to the wider woodland setting as well. And what that also ensures is that the development is set back considerably from Hilland Road, so it sort of sits within this landscape setting and should look really pleasant as you come across the road. Slightly differently to some of the sort of close-knit development that sits on Hilland Road at the moment, and sort of separated it as its own form. The other thing that we were looking to do was to provide a physical connection to the outline planning permission to the north. So you can see point 6 there was where we were originally looking at providing a potential vehicular connection, but certainly a pedestrian connection through to the development that's proposed, whilst also noting that the detailed design for that hasn't actually been arrived at yet. We got quite a number of comments on the layout. As Katie mentioned, pretty positive from the planners. They were generally really happy with the way in which we'd addressed the setting of the site, the way in which the constraints had created the opportunities for development parcels. There were a few points that they wanted us to address. The first one was the large flat block at the entry point to the site. They wanted to reconsider the pedestrian connection to the north of the site and how we might be able to make that work. They felt that the leak position, which we'd positioned sort of fairly centrally within that entrance feature, they wanted that to be more sort of strung out and part of a more naturalistic space. And we felt that was quite a good opportunity that we took away and considered with our landscape consultants. There were a few other sort of more detailed points about how the dwellings related specifically to the pylon and the constraint, the visual constraint that pylon would create to those dwellings. So those were other things that we took away. Finally, to the eastern part of the site, we were providing around about a 10 to 12 metre buffer to the woodland, and the officers wanted that increased to 15 metres to effectively replicate the kind of buffer that you would have with an ancient woodland approach. Although this isn't ancient woodland, we felt that was probably an appropriate way in which to respond to that boundary. If you can move to the next slide, Steve. So this is our sort of work in progress site layout at this point in time. So a few things that we've done in response to those officers' comments. We've dropped 10 units, so we're now at 93 dwellings instead of 103. We've reconsidered that entry point to the site, and we've changed it from a flat block to a series of terraced houses that will be 2.5 stories. So we've looked to create scale, but in a slightly less dominant way than the flat block that was proposed. And what that does is it allows us to create overlooking to the new sort of local play areas that we're proposing along that sort of southern edge, but also to the public right of way, which is actually a really important part of ensuring kind of safety, accessibility, and that sort of thing. We're using or intending on using the public right of way as the primary access point into the development to the north. So we're making sure that we're talking to West Sussex about how that should be surfaced, how it should be lit, and to make sure that can be a key movement route that goes through to the wider Billingshurst settlement. You'll obviously note the substantial change in the area that's covered by the electric cables. We've had a lot of detailed discussions with the electric company about what we are able to provide underneath that, and we've come up with a proposal that has a series of interconnected play spaces, but in addition to interesting sort of planting areas, opportunities for blue infrastructure as well. So the the whole area kind of reads as a much sort of larger parkland setting that meanders around the pylon, which would be protected and sort of so that people couldn't get to it by a much larger part of landscaping, and then through to the balancing ponds, which we see as having the potential to be interconnected by almost like a mown grass pathway. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that for the pedestrian user, they're able to sort of go all the way around the site and take advantage of all these kind of opportunities for what we think will be a really exciting landscaping scheme. Other points that we've done, we've responded to planning officer's comments about cul-de-sacs. So we've made sure that on the southern part of the site, we've got an interconnecting road that provides a movement route up to the north of the site through an additional pedestrian route. And we've looked to slightly space out some of the dwellings in line with reducing numbers to create a development that's slightly less dense and provides opportunity for incidental planting on the street as well as to the wider landscape space. If you'd like to move on to the next slide, final slide, sorry, second to last slide. This sort of looks at the landscaping strategy in more detail, so it's explaining what I've just talked about and how those different spaces can interrelate to create a high quality setting, which we think will be quite special. And then if you get to the next slide, Steve, just a little bit about where we're currently thinking in terms of the architecture approach. So given the sort of traditional vernacular in and around Hilland Road, we're looking at high quality dwellings, mixture of materials, predominantly brick, tile hanging, and we're looking at sort of a dark weatherboarding to create variety, but to try to keep a cohesive design approach without going overly pastiche, but making sure that it reads as its own development. I think that's a bit of a summary of the design approach, but happy to take questions.
Thank you, Helen. Just a couple of additional points, and then we'll open it to the floor for any questions and feedback. It is currently just in excess of the 35% affordable housing policy that is adopted. Obviously, if that position changes through the emerging local plan, then it will be that policy position. We are continuing to protect and enhance that public right of way through the site and enhance that as has been secured already through the scheme to the north. But as it's through our site, we actually have it's in our agreement to be able to deliver that. Biodiversity net gain in excess of 10%. Actually, it could be far greater than that with all of the opportunities we've got here. The open space that we're providing is in excess of policy. We have, I won't go into any detail, just being through that. We have adhered to the guidance, but also Horsham have looked to us to ensure that the play space follows the guidance for Make Space for Girls, the charity. I've seen them talk before, and I feel quite passionately about that as well. That teenage people and teenage girls, for example, like to enjoy spaces quite differently to young boys and younger children, and so that's why it's sort of got seating in little areas and pockets for them to sit in. Finally, EV charging to all houses, PV panels where appropriately, and all electric scheme, of course. The vehicular route that was provided to the north in the pre-app, I just thought it'd be helpful to clarify that, because it has been a point for discussion there. We thought it'd be helpful to show that as being a viable route through, to just be flexible in the future. But of course, the Planning Commission to the north doesn't allow for that, and we have had quite strong direction from Horsham. They wouldn't want that approach either. I know that it wasn't necessarily the favoured local approach for the scheme to the north, but unfortunately it's not in our gift to sort of resolve that from their scheme. But you've heard quite enough from us. Please, do you ask us any questions?
Show of hands, please, Councillor. James.
Yeah, 3 points. Firstly, can you say a little bit more about eco features? You mentioned solar panels. Will they be on all the houses, and any other eco features? Secondly, I welcome what you say about access, pedestrian access, potentially access in 2 wheels. I like the idea of point number 6 on the map. I hope there won't be other developments on the northeast boundary and elsewhere. But if there should be in the future, is it designed in such a way that there could be further access for people rather than there's a lot of development in Billingshurst. You get stuck in a cul-de-sac if you're going round and you can't go out. And my final point is how many parking spaces do you allow per unit?
Okay, so the first one, yes, well, there will be PVs to probably all units. We will be undergoing a sustainability review, and the early kind of results of that are that we need to make sure that we've got PV pretty much to every dwelling. We've designed the roof forms so that we can get as many south-facing roofs as possible. So we're trying to max out the PV effectively, and that's helpful both from the perspective of we're going to have EV charging points for everything. So we want to be using that PV actively. There may be sort of battery storage as a sort of potential solution as well. It's all relative to what the future home standards will be and how we meet those. Your second point, connectivity.
Yes.
Yes, well, you can probably see from to the northeast, which you specifically referenced, we've got the route going all the way around the edge. So whilst we're not providing vehicular routes to those edges, we are providing pedestrian routes. So there would be the potential. Not that we're planning for that at the moment, but there's obviously that opportunity. Sorry, what was your third?
Number 3 was how many parking spaces?
Parking spaces, right? Okay. So we're looking at 1.5 parking spaces per flat as an average. We're looking at 2 spaces per 2 and 3 bed house, 3 spaces per 4 bed, and we've got well over the required amount of visitor or unallocated parking on here because we've got quite sort of a lot of single-sided road. We've got the opportunity to provide lay-by spaces in quite a lot of areas. So I think we're doubling the visitor or unallocated parking sort of requirements, and that's primarily so that we don't get overspill on surrounding roads. That's sort of the primary focus for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. Doug?
Just wonder what consideration you've given to another 300 people potentially impacting upon already overstretched health and education facilities in Billingshurst.
I can understand that as a village you have already accommodated quite a lot, and the infrastructure is the number one priority for all local residents. I live in a similar village that's had similar. The health point is always a very difficult one because actually planning can't directly necessarily influence that. On the education point, it's obviously another site that's not big enough to deal with either of those issues on site. From an education perspective, we'll be making the contributions as required. I appreciate they may not be the answers that you were looking for, but we would be looking to make the appropriate financial contributions. But any other feedback we could perhaps look to help with on site, we would.
Anything else, Doug?
No.
Thank
Craig?
you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. There was a couple of things. One was just from Doug. I think there will be concern from the village, from the neighbourhood, that effectively what we've had is in conversation about the western Billingshurst and the secondary school provision is a concern, but actually what we're doing is having a very piecemeal approach over to the east and, to be honest, now to the north, that we're not getting that. So it's a comment more than anything. Like we're basically getting this by default. If we had 650, 750, even up to 1,000 homes eventually, what this is doing is kind of bypassing that rule, because in the other side we're saying 1,000 is too many for secondary school provision. That was just a comment for one. My other thing is the concern around the pylons. I think it's the elephant in the room in this one. I think that's a comment that comes up to me an awful lot. I think regardless of what happens here, putting play areas underneath pylons is going to have concern from parents. I'm a parent myself. I would be thinking that. So my question is, what kind of bits are you going to put in place to alleviate some safety concerns that parents like myself are going to have about letting their children play under electricity pylons?
I think it's fair to say that there's one pylon on the site, and I was going to say play to that will be excluded. The wires, I think we can probably address the sort of concerns that you're talking about through some of the submissions we'll have a utilities report. Because I think, I'm a parent as well, I think it's fair to say that actually the concerns that we would probably have as parents probably aren't actually concerns that are real.
No, I know,
But-
you've had those concerns, I guarantee.
But, well, yeah, exactly. So we should address them, and we should make comments where we can on why it's appropriate to have them. We have, and quite often utilities reports are the sort of tag on report that we have to a planning application, but on this instance, they've been key to every detail, every design team meeting that we've had.
Thank you. Kate, I think you-
No, that was mine about the pylons, the children's play area.
Any other questions, councillors? Yeah.
Just one, as I think has already been mentioned, this sort of what we might call northeast Billingshurst is going to be a very large estate when it's finished, but it's been done in sort of silos and small parcels. I appreciate we're all separate landowners and developers, but if we can't have a sort of master plan for the whole area, will you be able to go from each of these various sites on foot, because it's not obvious from what I can see here?
So these two sites are interconnected
Okay.
with the public right of way.
Right,
So there's quite a strong public right of north-south public right of way that
Okay.
runs on the western boundary of the permitted scheme to the north, and runs through our site. And as Katie was talking about, potentially there might be a crossing point to get onto the other side. You can just about see actually in the overhead photograph there the continuation of that as it goes across the road.
Okay, yeah.
So that is it's an existing public right of way. It's one that we'll be improving as part of the proposal, which will actually provide a connection up to the already consented scheme to the north.
It's actually upgraded to a cycleway as well.
It's cycleway, yes, yeah.
As part of the proposal.
David, did you want
Quick one, yeah, it's about water neutrality. I know obviously, the Natural England has removed the conditions for all these developments, and I'm sure you've worked on the project where you have had to go through it. Is there anything remaining that is of interest? Because I'm an architect myself, and I'm sort of concerned that this has just been wiped out. Some very obvious, I'm trying to get some information from Natural England or the council, and no one can actually tell us why and what's changed. So have you kept any of these interesting features or not at all?
I think there's probably 2 points. There's the water neutrality point, which I think is difficult for most people to get their head around. I think it was the question originally was, can anybody be certain that it's not causing harm? And I think that there now is more certainty that it has not been causing harm in the Arun Valley. But then there's also the water efficiency point as well, and measures that we can put in place to reduce water consumption. As I know that water use is a concern across the whole of the South East at the moment. I actually don't think we've got as far as talking about that.
I think I know we had a little bit
Yeah,
we've got a lot of experience with water neutrality with the Duckmore application and other sites we've worked on in Horsham where it stifled development for 4 or 5 years. So Horsham's position now is obviously that the ban been lifted by Natural England, which is common knowledge, and they're seeking to achieve sort of 110 litres a day under their local plan in terms of water consumption. But the work that we've been doing on the previous schemes, we'd already sort of advanced what we do as a company and are seeking to achieve sort of 85 litres per person per day. I mean, it's impossible to be water neutral. It's just it can't be done because water is needed for development. But our approach, much like sustainability, is to go above and beyond and make sure that we're still providing what we would have had to have provided under water neutrality, but just without that offset requirement to an offsetting site somewhere else in the district. So it's still top of our agenda as a company to ensure we're as water efficient as we can be.
So water consumption and fresh water is one thing, and as you know, one of the major other aspects, and we are going through every winter, is flooding. And so you've got some basins there. Is that because you're trying to retain some of the rainwater from the roofs, or because I know that area very well. I live just on the other side, and in winter, that little road on the side there is constantly flooded as soon as it rains. And so is that something that you've been thinking?
The rainwater from the roofs would be collected via through a rain button used in the gardens. There's not enough roof space for it to do more than that as a feature. The sun's ponds are effectively to fill the sun's requirement. So ponds of certain sites hold water, so it discharges naturally into the ditches that surround the site. So as Katie mentioned earlier on, there's no flood zones on this site, but it's good design practice that have your pond size appropriately to hold that water so it naturally dissipates into the ditches without causing any additional flooding off-site. It's a piece of work that we have spent a lot of time on doing, which I'm happy to share with you if you'd like to see it.
We're not running separate services, rainwater and sewage.
Oh, yes, yeah,
Oh,
the surface water strategy is
So-
completely separate to the.
So rainwater
power
goes into
strategy.
the basins and then your overfill or disposal goes into the network.
So it essentially becomes a betterment to the existing greenfield rate. The requirements on us, and I'm not a drainage expert, I take their advice, I'm afraid they're not here today, but we are required to go above the current rate of greenfield runoff and accommodate climate changes, plus a bit more. So it should accommodate what is already, what the site already takes in terms of its surface water and above that. So it won't run off to any greater extent, causing flooding anywhere else.
Thank you. Let's Doug, do you want to come back?
Yeah, if I could come up with a second one, it just occurred to me. There's a single point of access egress onto the link road, is that correct? Could you just put the cursor on that? It's not very distinct. Right, okay, good. At that point, the road is only 2 vehicles wide, so what arrangements will be made for safety and especially people turning right into it?
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, through the highways consultant team and their discussions with West Sussex, that there isn't a need for any right and turn lanes. We have relocated.
Sorry,
it back.
are you saying that people will stop indicating until they are clear to turn right with traffic behind them stopped? That's
That's why it's currently, isn't it? That's why it's
There is
currently.
That's right.
It's why it's currently with the current.
No, there's a refuge going into Rose Way, for example.
Oh, I see. I'm thinking about the ones further up, so Challenge Street. et cetera,
Yeah, yeah.
et cetera. Yeah, got it.
I mean, that seems very unwise. It is the 272. If there was ever an occasion not to have a no right turn place, that would be it, or at least a refuge in order to do it. But that would need to be widening the road, I would have thought.
Thanks, man. Philip.
Just following up on that point, when it's a 50-mile-an-hour limit.
It's not 30 now, actually. It's 30.
Sorry?
It's 30.
It's 30 that it
Yeah.
goes down. Oh, okay. Right, I've withdrawn my.
Right, just further on again, one of the concerns of people who live in Challenge Street is actually the ability to get out there because it's starting built up on both sides.
Yeah.
Sometimes when it's the kind of vegetation's overgrown as well, it's difficult to get out. So what I would suggest is that you make sure there's plenty of visibility both ways because people do, regardless of speed limit, will go quickly down that road because by definition it's an A road and they won't necessarily see. Although we obviously try our best to make sure those numbers keep down, but it will be it'll be a safety aspect.
Noted, thank you.
And Challenge Street as well, they put the sign saying Challenge Street right in your right.
Yeah, so it is a difficult road to get out of, and I wouldn't want that the same the other side at all.
No, good point at all. I was going to ask about, this is partly a general question about if there's like an industry approach these days to these things, and also what your approach is, but there's a lot of open space there, and that's welcome, I'm sure, so Highland's got some advantage, that's made a nice little swathe of a few less houses on the edge of it. What is your plans that you've got in it at the moment with regards to future maintenance of those areas? Will it be something you try and pass on to a local authority, have a management company, try and link it with a current management company?
I think, as a general rule, we're finding that most district councils are reluctant to take and transfer open spaces at the moment. As the site of this side would normally have its open space placed into the management company, so it's maintained by the management company, with residents paying a contribution towards that.
And would you think that would be a separate one for that development, or
It'd be standalone for this one.
Right.
The two wouldn't be interlinked. The road itself, the new link road, obviously adopted, so there's no tie-in in terms of infrastructure or shared facilities with the wider land east of Billingshurst. But this would have its own management company that would be responsible for the on-site ponds on the maps, the open spaces, the road surfaces.
Yeah. Great, okay, thank you. Timescale that might be?
It'll probably be towards the end of this month or early July. You know, we're, as Katie mentioned earlier on, we're a bit hamstrung with where Horsham are with the local plan at the moment. But if their timescales are true to their word, then we would imagine around about that time.
In an ideal world, this would all come through plan making, not applications as you say, and wouldn't have been piecemeal. We would hope that we can make a planning application with the benefit of a draft site allocation, but we don't know. And obviously there's been a lot of
Our landowner controls the farmyard, which just comes off the track, the existing track, sort of pointing to, like, where it is. Open space community man from that's actually,
Thank you.
you might recall that land in there was an ecological parcel land from that development as well.
Okay, thank you, councillor. Thank you for coming and speaking to us this evening and answering all our questions. Thank you for calling Village as a village. We're just clinging on to that identity now. I'm not sure how long we'll be able to keep doing that, but it's nice to hear all the villages as well. And we look forward to seeing your future sort of plans and how things develop. So thanks again for coming. Thank you.
thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
That's well done, everybody, including guests and councillors, for keeping it to schedule. So you've got about 10 minutes for a swap over between the two meetings. Our next meeting is on the 1st of July. Thank you, councillors. Bring the meeting to a close.
Are we all ready?
Yeah, go for it.
How do I know it's working?
Is the light on there?
If it says end stream on the top right, it means it's
That's
running.
fine, should be fine.
Is that flashing? I can't see it, that little thing.
I can't see the light, actually. It's looking at me,
The out of the hour. No, it's fine, it's working.
Oh, is it nothing? Has it got my best side?
Can't guarantee that. Okay, right. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Planning and Environment Committee, being held at Billingshurst Community Centre on Tuesday, the 2nd of June. Usual announcements, please. This meeting is being streamed to the internet. So if we speak loudly and clearly, please, for the benefit of the cameras on the microphone, raise your hand if you wish to speak. And please mute or switch your telephones off at this moment. Thank you for that. Anything else to say? In which case, let's go straight into the agenda, which is moderate tonight. There was one additional planning application which you won't have seen, none of us has, but we'll get to it at the end and all will be explained. It came in during the course of today, so not possible to circulate it before. Have you any apologies for absence? No, we're a full circle, aren't we? Great. I can't do it, this orientation is thrown off. Right, declarations of interest, are there any?
I will step out for DC 260852. It's my next door neighbour, so I'll.
Okay, all right, fine, well, just make yourself absent. And,
Yeah.
That'd be good, thanks. Maureen? No other declarations of interest, so we'll move on to item 4, which is the approval of the minutes of the P&E held last on the 5th of May. Everybody's seen those, had a chance to look at them and inwardly digest anything to be saying about those? No? So I propose that we accept those as a true record. Secondly, David, all in favour, please? That's unanimous. Item 5, Clerk's report, Richard.
I actually have something to report this month.
Wow.
Don't get too excited. Horsham District Council are surveying their residents on air quality. Residents are asked to have their say to help improve air quality. So that survey is out actually already, the 26th of May to the 23rd of June. Should you wish to share your views, I can send you the link.
Okay, very good. They seem to be doing this more and more, don't they?
How do we know what our air quality is?
It's subjective, isn't it?
I mean, is there any way of it being counted or, you know, any machine?
With the right equipment, yes.
Well, I've got a little machine on my office desk. Yeah, definitely. Counts everything. Particle matters, which size, carbon monoxide, NOx, gas fumes from cars. I mean, it's quite, yeah, if you want to, if you're interested in that, yeah, definitely.
Otherwise, it's.
And it doesn't cost much.
No, doesn't
If you cough a lot, it might.
it? Anyway, thank you, Richard, for that. Yeah, that's great. Item 6 is the public session. Members of the public are welcome to attend this meeting and speak for a maximum of 3 minutes about an item on the agenda for this meeting during the public session at my discretion. If they do wish to speak, please give their name before they do so. We have some members of the public in this evening, and you're all very welcome. Do feel free to turn your chairs around if you feel a bit askew with. We set out for a previous meeting, but you're very welcome. Do you wish to speak on anything not on the agenda?
With that come, it's just my unit on one of them. Yeah, on.
Is it one of the applications which we are going to?
Yeah.
So which one, please? 26, 246.
Yeah.
246.
Actually, the first one is randomly.
The first one. That's,
It's my tree as well, randomly, but
it's one of the first. So we'll take that in the order of the agenda because the other two are fairly routine. But yeah, you're welcome to speak. Do you want to speak on anything? You do?
Yes, please.
On which topic?
The new item on the agenda on Hilland Road, is it a new development?
It's not on this agenda.
No, sorry, that was the meeting
The
just prior to
previous
this.
meeting, we had a meeting of the full parish council, which was to consider their parish accounts. And added to that, and circulated and published as so, was the invitation to some developers who wished to present to us some proposals that they had for a development on the north side of the Link Road. That has already taken place. It was a previous meeting. It is not this
Is that somewhere where you can view it, or is that too early in the process?
It is too early in the process. This was simply this is what we would like to do. They are already talking and are in conversation, at least, with Horsham District Council, who will have the final say in everything, planning. But it was nothing more than that. It was an introduction to us, a courtesy exercise more than anything.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry that you missed that opportunity.
That's all right. Happy to stay and listen.
If you wish to stay, you're more than welcome. If you feel that you need to leave at any time, do feel free to do so. Okay, thanks. In which case, let's take 246 as the first item. Okay. All right. Yeah, before the action. You wish to speak about an item which we're about to talk about, which so we will invite you to talk to us about that before we get to it. There won't be an opportunity after we've heard your contribution. We will then debate it and we will make a judgment. There won't be a further discussion after that. Okay. So off you go.
So I'm the owner of the unit that's in discussion. I took it over in start of March, so I've been operating it for 3 months. It is actually listed as a personal.
Can we have your name, please?
Oh, Paul Snowsell.
Paul
Snowsell.
Snowsell.
S-N-O-W. Yes, so I'm a local resident myself. I've been operating as a personal trainer for 18 years, and I've just taken the unit on. I used to run boot camps in the community, in the village, and I've just taken it on recently to operate all under one roof as a small private personal training and small group training unit. I feel that it's a massive benefit to the community, the location of it. People can walk to the unit. It's not going to be a big, I've got no idea of turning it into a big gym. It's just a private studio where people can book one-to-one classes and maximum group of 10 group training classes in there. I feel like I've done everything I can to sort of limit noise in there. All the machines are eco-powered, it's rubber floor matting, appointment only booking, plenty of parking there. A lot of obviously the locals walk there. And I would love obviously your support and approval on it. I think it'd be a big asset to the community with regards to wellness and health and fitness. So obviously willing to work with everyone if they want to put any of sort of allocations in regards to noise requirements. So I feel like I've done everything I possibly can to limit noise. So I haven't had any issues so far. I spoke to the neighbours before, everyone kind of just supportive of it. And with regards to the unit, I feel like I'm actually one of the quietest in the unit. With regards to obviously some of the other noisy operational industrial units that are there. So it's just a small private personal training appointment only booking unit that I feel hopefully will benefit the community and already is benefiting the community.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, anybody wish to ask Paul anything about what he has said to us before we actually get to the applications?
Yeah, could I just ask about your operating hours?
Yes, the operating hours are 6 a.m. to, is actually some things, it's 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Thursday. and then it's 6 a.m. to sort of lunchtime, it's 1 p.m. on a Friday, and then early morning Saturday, it's 7 a.m. till I finish at 9:30. So it's really to try and hit the sort of peak times of people before going to work, but it's actually my most popular time at 6 a.m. Obviously, then I've got my sort of 9 o'clock after the school run. I run some lunchtime sessions and early evening sessions and pack up by 8. But let's say it is all small sort of group controlled classes and maximum of 10 in there, no amplified music, and so it's trying to. I think people have enjoyed the flexibility of the timing rather than.
Okay.
No, that's exactly what I was going to ask as well.
Jeremy?
How many actual allocated parking spaces have you got in that?
So we've got 4 allocated at the front, and then we've got a use of the unit's got a use of probably about 5 or 6 that we can share.
We've got arrangement with the other owners.
Everyone's just kind of allowed to share it on the unit, yeah, and everyone's kind of respectful of that. I say because of the way the location is, and most of my members actually do walk. So since it's opened in March, we haven't had any issues with parking at all. It's actually.
Is there any empty units on that industrial site at the moment?
It's not so much empty units. It seems like the units, a lot of them operate just like a single car use only, or a lot of them seem to, especially where I'm in the corner, they seem to operate. I don't know if they're like hobby units. There seems to be a lot of like people just working on their cars more in the evening, to be honest. It's actually really quiet in the day. If you go in there in the day, it's actually really quiet. It seems to be in the evening, funny enough, because when I knocked on the neighbours' doors just to say what I was doing, they were saying, oh, like that's obviously you're going to get more annoyed by the cars going up and down. And it seems to be people working on their cars privately. So I'm not too sure what the others are operating, but say parking wise, we've kind of never had a problem. People either cycling or walking. I think that's been one of the biggest positives of it. The location of it is the fact people can walk there and they're enjoying doing that.
Anybody else?
Not a question for Paul, but just for reference, I actually attended a class there yesterday. No link to this application, but I would already booked on. Yeah, just felt like it was really positive for the community. I drove there. There were multiple spaces available when I was there at 8 o'clock. Wasn't noisy.
Let's get to that when we take the application, shall we, Faye, and then we'll. But yeah, that's great. Let's. Anybody else want to ask Paul anything? In which case, let's move to the item. We'll take that one first. So, the first item is DC 260246, which seeks the change of use from a light industrial building, and it gives the class category, to a mixed use of light industrial and low impact gym and fitness studio in its class, changed it slightly within class A. All at Unit 28 at the Huffwood Trading Estate, Rookers Road, Billingshurst. So change of use from light industrial to mixed use of light industrial and low impact gym fitness studio. We've all seen the application, and I think we can be appreciative and respectful of the amount of consultation that the proprietor has taken over this application. I counted in the application alone something exceeding 35 letters, all of which were in support. There was nothing in there which was negative about it at all. All saying much the same as Faces, in fact. As far as you can be certain, the business model would appear to fit with what would be expected in such an area as that. Parking is an issue, as Jeremy has already raised. Noise, we've been spoken to about noise. We haven't heard about music being played. There would have to be some concern about the volume of music in
I think we did.
I did mention that.
But keeping the volume down, which is as good neighbours. Apart from that, it seemed a positive application, and the consultation was exhaustive. So, anybody wish to make a proposal?
I propose we accept.
Okay, a seconder, please. That's considered, proposed by Jeremy, seconded by Anna, and all in favour of no objection? That's unanimous. Okay, so moving on, or moving back rather, to the agenda, as it were. We have CA, Conservation Area 260064, which seeks to fell one cherry tree and works to trees in the conservation area at 7 Caffins Rise. There's nothing to show on this, is there?
I've got some lovely photos.
There we are. Yes, there we are.
Not often we get this many photos.
No, indeed. And it was a tree which is past its prime, I think is
Got canker.
that is or well. So they seek to fell this cherry. It's in the conservation area. Anybody wish to make any comment about this?
It's a great shame,
Apart from the fact that if any tree is felled, it's our habit and recommendation that another one is planted in its place. And I would like to put that into the resolution, if we may. So perhaps I can propose that we do not object to the felling of this tree, subject to the replanting of the replacement. Seconded by Marie. All in favour of that? That's unanimous. Conservation Area 260757 seeks to fell one ash. Very similar circumstances. This is at Hannon's East Street. Felling of one ash. Well, ash trees are notorious and we see them countless numbers. I think we were, did we see some illustration of that? Yes.
Yes. No, that's it.
Yeah. We assume that it's the one that's going bald that's under consideration. It's an ash tree. We know what the history of those are, so I would make the same proposal as before. Do not object to the felling of it, but replant please in place. Seconded, please. Right, David, all in favour of that? David? Sorry, unanimous. And moving on to 260620, which seeks the erection of a first floor side extension over an existing garage at 3 Maple Road. So erection of a first floor side extension over an existing garage at that address. Some nice plans which are shown in great detail. That's your existing, and that's the proposed. Proposed first floor. Yeah. Elevations. Yes, we do have elevation. There we go. That's the existing. Yeah, okay, that's good. So it's not just another flat roof horror. It's integrated, isn't it? And in keeping with the rest of the plot, one would suggest.
Can we tell where the side windows are facing? How near they are to the other house?
If we go back to the existing, let's see whether it's just duplicating the same outlook. Yeah. So from there, it looks like they're looking over the same outlook, Kate.
Yeah. Just a bit nearer.
Yes. Okay, anybody want to say anything about this play?
Yes, I have a query on this. So where the dotted line is, that relates to phase 1, which is a separate planning application, which we're not being asked to comment on. However, that expired in October 24. And it says in the notes, the groundworks have recently commenced. So just wonder, are we not, how does that link? How does the hatched phase 1 link to what we're being asked to comment on for phase 2? Or does it not?
Two good questions. I don't know the answer.
Do you see that on that yellow section?
Yeah.
It's all phase one. It says this is reference to phase one, which is a previous application, but that expired in 24.
Okay, the application is for the erection of a first floor side extension over the existing garage. Nothing more, nothing less.
Chair, if I may, I didn't spot the expiry. All I would say therefore is where you're looking at, we're being asked to comment on the purple, so a bit
On the
to the left. Yeah,
Okay.
I think we may just have to ignore that to the right then, if they have, if it's not part of this application. But
See there, it says phase one on the right.
Yeah.
But if the footings are done,
indeed,
then that means
it may be that, yeah, the commencement work
it's
is
commenced, it's
Yeah.
commenced.
No, it says the groundworks are now in the process of being constructed, which if it expired 2 years ago,
When were the footings done?
it says in the process.
Right, the point you're making, Faye, is.
I didn't know it was linked.
No, well, it's an expired planning application, but they are going ahead with the essence of that planning request.
I mean, it's an interesting question because if you had a small property and you did 3 planning applications and you judge each application in its own merit, you think, yeah, it's fine. And then the 3 together, you think, that just doesn't work anymore. Now, this house is relatively small, you can see the ground floor, doesn't have that much space. When all this phase 1 and phase 2 will be built, it's going to be quite a different house. I'm not against it. I'm just saying it's interesting. It's an interesting comment because you could do this consecutively and in the end having a pretty monstrous result.
It's a very fair point, Faye. And I mean, what is before us is very plain and simple. But to then start questioning another phase which has been declared on the plan, which is outside what is before us now, I believe we can only make it some kind of comment to HDC planners alongside our objection or non-objection.
Chair, reading that last paragraph there, the groundworks are now in the construction process as approved by building regulation. Therefore, I assume that there was some commencement work done before it expired, which would mean it would be okay.
Because it does depend when this plan was drawn up, where it says it is currently underway.
It may well have been delayed by building
Maybe it's
regulation.
just the wording.
Yeah, or it's just an out-of-date plan.
But building regs hasn't got any connection.
Relevance,
I mean, you could call someone tomorrow from building regs and can come and have a look at my footings and say, yeah, no problem. They will not ask anything about what's planning.
Some have started the construction.
Yeah.
For over 3 years, but yeah.
Otherwise,
Okay, are you content with that explanation, Faye?
Yes.
Very good. All right. So back to the essence of the application, and on the balance of discussion, I would propose that we do not object to this. Seconded, please. Marie, all in favour of no objection? That's unanimous. Thanks, Ray, that's good. Right, 260639 seeks the variation of condition 3 of previously approved application reference PC 250689, which was for the conversion of a loft into habitable space, the installation of rear dormer and 1 number front roof light. And the nature of this application relates to materials to be used in these works. All that 8 Lakers mean for this house. So they seek a variation of condition 3 in order to change or alter materials. At least that's how I read it.
Yes, Chair. So it is just a change of removal of condition for the materials used. Bit of a tricky one. I don't know quite why we've been asked on it.
No.
I think
Because they
Started
can't,
taking
sorry,
on
because
some-
they can't match the roof tiles. So, the variation, the 3 regulatory was the materials and finishes of all new external walls, windows, roofs of the development hereby permitted shall match in type, colour and texture those in the existing building. They need to change their dry ridge system It's a mechanically fixed dry ridge system to comply with building regs. So the building regs have changed since that variation was put on. And the new dry ridge for the building regs will not match the old bricks, but they will try to get as close as possible. So that building will look slightly different, which is why they're asking for that change in variation.
Because it's underway, isn't it, on another illustration, it's swathed in scaffolding.
No, yeah, and they've got all the netting stuff is
Yeah.
down, because I walk my
It's
dog
obviously
round that way. So it looks as if they're about to take it down.
Could you scroll through, Richard? There were other pictures that would show it underway. Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter, we've all seen it, as if the works are suspended in the meantime. Yeah. Okay, so, that is what is sought, is the variation of condition to that explanation, and this is about to happen on some occasions, isn't it? You know, you can't find something exactly matching. The best option in that case is usually to contrast, isn't it? Not try to slightly match. Right, well, does anybody want to make a proposal on this?
I'm happy to propose that we propose no objection to the variation in condition 3.
Very good. Seconder, please. And all in favour of no objection? That's unanimous. There were no representations on that. It's a bit late to say that, but there were none. There were none. DC 2607004 seeks the part conversion of a loft into habitable living space with installation of a rear dormer and 2-number front roof lights at West Cottage, Hayeswood Road, 5 Oaks. So part conversion of a loft into habitable space and installation of a rear dormer and 2 front roof lights, not forward facing. Right. When I looked at this, the layout was very odd. If we can get this is what they propose for the second story, i.e. the 3rd floor, top right. Top right, which sits over middle right. The bedroom is split level. You've got the bedroom on the 3rd floor, the 3rd story, above the ensuite bathroom and what they are now calling a walk-in wardrobe with a staircase going up between the two. Split level bedroom. Okay, I mean,
yeah, there's nothing special really, it's just quite a small loft conversion.
And then certainly utilising the best space without expanding, aren't we?
Yeah.
So an innovative solution, one might suggest, I suppose. Anybody want to say anything about this one? Okay, and then in which case I'll propose that we raise no objection to this. Secondly, please. All in favour of no objection? It's unanimous. Now then, DC 2607080 seeks the felling of 1 lime and 1 ash tree, works to trees in the conservation area at Sayers Farm, Stane Street, Adversary. So felling of 1 lime and 1 ash in a conservation area at that address. My first response to this was that they haven't complied with what they are supposed to do. Well, first of all, the plans are pathetic, but they are there. Now, can we go to they only get, that's it, lime and ash, brilliant. Now, if we are being asked to say that these are coming down because they are diseased or whatever, this is obviously taken when they're defoliated anyway. It's a winter picture. So there's nothing to tell us there that these trees are diseased. If I read into the application form and the conditions that were put on that, it said that if they want to fell a tree, it has to be supported by an expert view. And nothing was there. all we had was those two pictures and a hand-drawn diagram, which took about 5 minutes. So my thoughts were that this is an incomplete application.
It needs our officer to go out and have it.
Yeah. That's suspected they haven't got.
Sorry, I meant district council.
Yep. But I mean, they might feel the same way as we do, say, well, you need to give us the proof of where you want to go.
I mean, one might make some assumptions on an ash, but the other one, which is the principal tree, it's a lime. Why would you want, so if you all agree with that motion, yes,
I think so.
then I would propose that we object on the basis of insufficient information and the need for professional support as to the need to fell these trees. Yep. Agree with that? Yeah. Sorry, so second. Seconder, please, yes. Marie, all in favour? Thank you very much.
Sorry, can I ask, does that mean that the felling of the first cherry tree that we looked at is similar to this application?
It's similar, but they have given us some more photographs.
That cherry
There's no doubt.
The photograph did show
the condition of the tree.
canker or something.
I mean, sometimes you don't have a look at it. Okay. An arborist to tell you.
Cherry tree's got a short life anyway.
That's a good point, Gary. Yep. So 260784 seeks the change of use from residential to a veterinary practice at 1 Woodcott, New Road, Billington. So again, it's just within our boundaries, isn't it? On Slimfold Road. Change of use from, no, this is in New Road, isn't it? Change of use from residential to veterinary practice. Now, did everybody see the proposal here? Very comprehensive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What do we think?
Parking.
Yes,
Well, it's, sorry to interrupt, there's only parking required for staff, so they won't be doing any veterinary duties on that practice.
I think it's
Going out, it's basically an office unit for the vets and the staff.
Let's synopsise what they are seeking, because all we have in front of us is a proposal to change of use. As Marie quite rightly says, this is not, as you might say, calling it a veterinary practice is maybe a bit of a misnomer according to their description. It's a base. And they say repeatedly through their proposal that they intend not to treat any animals on site. And that this is merely an admin base, a collective place for their operation to centre. Their work is domiciliary, it goes out to various equine facilities and that's where they do the work. So there is repeatedly an assurance that there is no practice or operation sought at these premises. It is merely an office space, unless somebody disagrees with that.
That's well read it, yeah. So, Kate, in answer to your question, there is parking available for 5 cars, and there are 5 members of staff at that premises.
Thank you.
And the changes internally and externally are minimal.
Yeah. I mean, if you had horses of your own, if you had a field at the back, and you did your own livery, you'd think that it wouldn't constitute anymore. Anybody else want to say anything about this? No, in which case, I propose that we don't object to this. Seconded, please. All in favour of no objection? Unanimous. Can we say, subject to the assurance that there is no operation to take place and that no animals will be treated on site? Again, can we add that as a caveat to our
The decision notice would state in relation to this document as submitted, and they have submitted a planning statement saying
which
that.
says
So, yes.
so we are supporting that notion. Very good. Okay. 260852 is surgery to One Oak at 26 Silver Lane. Marie has absented herself as its her neighbour. 260852, surgery to 10826.
That's another masterpiece.
Super. So accurate. Anyway, in our usual way, surgery to an oak doesn't really require a great deal of debate, does it not? So I propose we don't object to the surgery to this property. Seconder, please. Kate, all in favour, no objection. That's unanimous. Thanks, Marie. 260710 seeks the change of use from sui generis, the Youth Day Centre, to sui generis community use at Arran House. This is for meeting only. Change of use from the youth centre to wider use. Simple as that. So we note that, thank you very much. And that brings us to the additional one, which is 26066.
So you wouldn't think that Youth Day Centre is much different to communities.
Well, it means I can go.
I know, yeah.
As being the antithesis of youth. So I'm all for it. Yeah.
It was a planning concern.
So this is the additional one, 260660. Now, this seeks an expansion of the existing school, including the construction of 3 linked single-storey buildings, a sports hall, playground, parking, landscaping, drainage and associated development, following the demolition of redundant buildings, all at Infield Manor School, Infield Manor Drive up at 5 Oaks. So Infield Manor School wished to develop some redundant part of their site into something much more productive and useful. They invited us to go and visit their open day, which I did, and it was an interesting exercise, which we were glad to have been able to go and see what they were going to do. I can say that we all know Infield, don't we, and what they do up there. And it's owned by a corporation called Salutum, but it's the actual education is run by a sort of subsidiary of those. What they do currently is provide residential and visiting facilities to people with special educational communication and needs, language needs. And part of their site, which is shown in the red boundary there, is part of an old building, which, or series of buildings, none of which is in use. They are all derelict. And what they now wish to do is to take the footprint of those buildings and the services which are already in place and redevelop that corner of their site into 4 different areas of activity, all of which will complement what they currently do and offer much wider facilities to their students, as they call them. Now, it was a public session, and I went, and actually Amanda Jupp did come also towards the end of the session as well. So the district county council were aware of what was going on. There were some local residents who attended this public session, and they had a few reservations about the communal use of the access road, which is single track. It leads off that little roundabout at 5 Oaks. You can easily miss their turning, actually. And thank you, Richard. It's a single track road with a couple of passing places, but it's not brilliant. It is paved, but there is a small community which uses it quite frequently, and it leads to some pretty extensive open spaces beyond their grounds and some lovely land. And there's a public right of way across the same field, I believe. So that's what they wish to do. The implications that might indicate would be increased traffic flow everywhere. So especially down that single track road, which might bring into conflict with some of the local residents, for example. As far as the facilities that they were going to provide, I mean, it was pretty robust and convincing how beneficial it was going to be as there to an organisation. And I don't think we would have any doubts as to whether or not an initiative like this should be supported or not. It's just what might be the impact be. Could it be negative? My thoughts at the time were there is going to be more. They say it's not going to increase traffic or usage by many more students, but surely there will be more. Mostly they are bussed in at the moment. There will be more staff, therefore there'll be more staff cars. Their operation times are pretty conventional. Their arrival is between 08:45 and 09:15 in the morning, and it follows normal educational hours, which is not brilliant, really, because if there's going to be even more traffic on that 5 Oaks roundabout at critical time, then it was something which we asked them to take on board, whether or not staggered arrival times perhaps might be a solution, simply to take away the impact of everybody arriving at the same time. Generally speaking, it was a project to be admired and will be of massive benefit to the people who use it.
Any innovations? So,
Got the phase floor plans.
it looks pretty box standard.
Yeah, the three phases
Looks like,
boxed together.
The school building from the 1980s. It's a prefab.
I think there was a need for it to all be single story because many of them have mobility difficulties.
Right. How many students?
Yes, I was going to say, how many?
I don't remember the number. I think something between 25 and 50.
Oh, okay.
It's not even that.
It's not big. No.
No, it's not even that.
And the actual building itself on the other side is quite an interesting.
Yes.
The main,
The original.
It's quite.
Yeah, it is.
Do they own the land the side of the lane? Do they own that land as well?
As far as I can remember, Jeremy, go back to that. Their boundary is the blue. Their total.
So they share that, right? It's not actually,
It's
it
a
doesn't
shared
belong to.
single track, doesn't belong to. Mind you, they do maintain it. They do maintain
I
it.
just wondered if they could get like a passing bit or something. I mean, will they be actually using that primarily for the school with so few children, or are they going to expect to expand the school because they've got the new facilities? And if so, then that road's going to be a real buffer.
To cross the road with the students, especially if they cross the road from the main building with students that you are impaired or whatever they are.
I'm not, well,
Okay.
there's a graduation of impairment. Many of them are independent movers and are trained in moving around the site.
But even
as far as the access road stops in a car park prior to when you get into the complex, if you like. It's kind of it's difficult to describe, but when the road leads into a huge open area, which is the car park in front of the old building, the one you're describing, David.
Yeah.
And then the footpaths and so on kind of scatter out from that point. Motor vehicles wouldn't go beyond the car park. So pedestrian movement around the site beyond the road wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah,
those who have massive mobility difficulties would be
but you can imagine as a director of a school like this, developing a site on the outside of the road, because it still is passing through to the farm at the back there. You can have children crossing a road to go to the canteen and coming back.
But not even that, look at those properties where they come out with a roundabout. If they're going to have excessive more traffic going through that little lane, that's going to be a real issue as well.
To me, it feels like they're going to welcome students only on that side,
Yeah.
on the side.
Yeah.
And I think the ones on the other side would just
So
remain.
this site to the south of the road is known as Woodview, and it's with them that the wardens have currently done their recent work at the Unitary Church at the bottom of the High Street. So these are the more able-bodied. I don't independent. Yes, thank you. I don't think they're going to be crossing from one side to the other as much as we may.
Yeah.
They might have an age difference. They might have like, you know, junior school and seniors, and I don't know if they go up to 25.
It doesn't appear to be graduated, if you want to describe it that way, by age. It's more by ability. So you'll have multiple ages. in the
Yeah, I
same-
understand. I know
in
the
the-
school.
yeah.
Why not?
It's a fee-paying school, sorry.
No.
No,
It's not, sorry.
It's
Okay. So it's a charity.
I think it's for children with cerebral palsy.
Right.
So you've got children in wheelchairs,
Yeah.
and then you've got children who have got a degree of mobility, but obviously not fluid mobility.
Yeah, it specifically, well, specifically it's supporting people with speech, communication, language needs. And as I say, salute them. Well, they've taken on what Scope used to do. Scope still exists as an entity, but Salute now is part of their corporation. So that's the origins of Scope, isn't it? It was, but it's not a very great description these days.
Is there anyone represent?
I was just going to say, surely we can be reassured that they're going to make good provision for getting across that road for those wheelchairs. They're not going to, I mean, they're not just going to say, oh, get on with it, are they?
The fact
I mean,
is,
they're going to
well, as far as I can make out, and from my recollection, they won't be crossing the road. They'll be crossing the canvas, which is beyond the road, which is fed from the car parks.
Yeah, but
And
the
there's
farms
a
beyond,
footpath network as well.
the farm, sorry, I want to stand up, but the farms at the back there have to take that road.
No, they come straight down, don't they? From the main road.
Stansted, or whatever it's called, sorry, Sinfold Land Farm, all these.
Sheep farm, or whatever.
They take the same lane, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh, don't they come
What
straight
is
down?
the?
That's just a.
No, that's a field.
That's just a little
Field.
track, there's the river there, I don't know, there's a stream there. There's a track that comes.
But given that this has been in existence, and I don't know when.
Long time.
Yes, a long time. So, I mean, there has to be some kind of collaborative approach to who uses it and how we use it. One of the issues was speed. In particular, people bringing students by taxi, who are, of course, you know, get on to the next job, they'll come up there doing 60 miles an hour. And they took that, some of the local residents were quite verbose about that, saying that something has to be done to prevent the speed. And there are none, there's no speed bumps, there's nothing. So it is a bit of an invitation. But they did take that on board during that session. You know, that might be going to have to try and address the speed coming up there, try to slow people down, give a couple of passing places.
Got some potholes over there.
Yeah.
Well, it's a private lane, you can put your own speaking policeman on it.
Exactly.
And when,
Have we had any representation from any visitors?
Not as far as.
No, we only got onto the planning portal this morning. So
and there's strictly no outside views of what they're proposing. Sorry to say that, because the plan to me looks extremely poor. I mean, I've seen some schools and I've designed them myself, not to be able to see at least
A lot of parking spaces.
what they can, I mean,
no, we've only got anything plans at the moment. It might be
It's just outline, I think.
elevations.
but it's an application, it's a planning application, so we need to clarify.
You know,
That's
Yeah.
the conceptual.
Ah, okay, so there is something. Yeah. It's not the most attractive building to me, but
Wood clad.
yeah, it's prefab. Yeah.
Most of the site is already of that nature, actually. Yeah,
Was
because
it staying?
we did have an application from them about 2 years ago to put up another, but it was actually a portico.
Right. It really looks like
So they're doing a bit, you know, aesthetically this time. But I think function is the most important thing here.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sell it, but I mean, as far as I can tell,
Yeah,
my
it's very
experience
better
of
than the site.
people with relative
It's
is
great.
just that they would love it. You know, it's so easy to move around in. Okay. Anybody else want to say anything more about this?
No.
Okay. A proposal then, please.
No. I'm quite happy to propose that we don't object to this.
Okay, thanks, Marie. A seconder to that proposal, so that's Kate. All in favour of no objection? That is unanimous. Thank you very much, folks. That's great. Brilliant. Super. Back to the agenda. I can find my way back to it. Right. So, item 8 is to consider any licensing applications. There are none. There is none. Item 9 is to consider the nominations for street naming.
No nominations received.
None is done. And item 10, to review the protocol for when planning and environment committee meetings are in quorum in order to meet the response time to planning applications. I have little to say about this, except we know where this has come from. It was regrettable, it is avoidable, and we will do everything we can to avoid it, but it has become a full council issue. And we do need to just to underline what the suggestion was made at working practices. Anything else to say, Richard, about it?
No, you just want to remind us who aren't on working practices what that was.
So, I think it's been noted already as the meeting, but it is now being said in simple terms that a meeting is in court if it has three members. Therefore, if there are only 2 members of a committee or less than 3, it is in court. And the consequence of that is that the meeting shall be suspended, no business will be attended to, and a future date sought with the earliest opportunity. Of course, in planning terms, that may have to be in days rather than weeks. So, in a nutshell, we had this experience. We did find ourselves in court. There were 2 members here. There were fewer than 3, therefore it was in court. We did suspend the meeting, and that protocol has been adopted, basically. Now, are we content with that? We have 1 more possible member in the committee, but at the moment we are 7. There's a potential 8. So we could go up to 10. We could go up to 10, yeah, but it does seem as unlikely. But if we are only 8, then it is not inconceivable that 5 people may be absent for approved reasons. Okay.
But if that's managed and communicated in the correct manner, then you wouldn't foresee that being a problem, hopefully, again.
Well, at the moment, if you are going to apologise, you make that and your reasons for doing so to the clerk, not to this committee or any other committee comes to that. So unless a person's apology is then cascaded by the clerk to that committee, meaning that there is a much more urgent need for everybody else to attend, and they would need to know that there is an urgency for them to need to attend. We could easily be found in that position.
funny enough. I don't know, but 4 people may have offered apologies.
If someone's sending an apology for this meeting, would they not contact the clerk, but would you even copy?
Well,
That's what you should be, contact the clerk.
we have done that informally, and
That's
I would have been extremely happy for that, but that is not what the resolution says. It says
The standing order states very clearly that it goes to the clerk.
Yeah, but so the apology or the reason for absence is to be given with sufficient notice, because the clerk has got other things to do than contact everyone and say, okay, there's no point in coming tomorrow because there's not going to be enough people, which didn't happen last time.
But the reason it's come to us at all, outside the protocol which has already been accepted, basically, or hasn't gone to the full council, but it will be, is because we have a time constraint. And it could be that we miss a time slot if we do find ourselves in court for unavoidable reasons, and it is not possible to rearrange it in time.
So from the working practices point of view and the way we discussed it, there are 2 options. One, you can do an extraordinary planning meeting later in the week, to see if you can get everybody together. However, the standing orders do give you a timeline for that. So you can't say, we'll get everybody together tomorrow, because everybody has to have a notification of that. Or the decision could be made that the clerk and the chairman can review. But that was not a choice we went down for working practice. Is that my right to say that, Doug?
Yes, you are. And whatever we agree outside the council protocol, will have to be informed.
Yeah.
In other words, if the clerk can be persuaded to advise the chair of each committee as person on that committee offers their apology, then at least then we have some quantification of that, or at least to Richard perhaps, as well as the clerk.
Richard, when the clerk advises you, does he advise you today? Or does he tell you in advance that people have made apologies?
If I had run through to Greg today and said I'm not coming tonight, when would you have known that?
I think it's something to think about.
So I think the question we need to ask of assistant clerk is if he's happy to communicate with you, Chair, that we have a potential in-court situation arising, and then we make a decision as to what is happening at that point.
That's complying with standing orders, but it is also giving us some.
Because in advance, you may have an extra couple of days in advance to be able to organise an extraordinary plan.
And at that point, we would need to then circulate that to the rest of the committee, saying we are likely to be in court, and please make every effort to be there. Anything you want to say, Anna?
No, sorry. No, it's my fault. It was my fault saying I feel so guilty.
Okay, so, what's our, yes,
Trouble is with me sometimes is that my job, my office is in the middle of the woods, miles from nowhere. And quite often, I get absolutely no signal.
Yes, yes.
Right. So, and I sometimes I get stuck or something goes wrong, every intention to come. And that particular time, that was one of me, that I was stuck in the middle of Baynard's farm. I don't find Mark, get pulled out. There's no signal at Baynard's. Time I get out. So, yeah, every intention, but sometimes technology fails. And I just don't, just can't get you a signal if you like. I would, if it was possible.
Well, there's bound to be situations where it is impossible to right.
Yeah, I think the working practices, and you said this had happened once in the 4 years that you've been doing it. So what we're trying to do is to prevent this happening again. But I think if we can put in place with the assistant clerk that he contacts you as soon as he knows you're likely to become a carer, then we can work something out, moving that meeting, because you may be advised 2 or 3 days in advance. You're always going to get the emergency, I can't make it tonight, that's fine. But if we know in advance, then we can do something about it, and we can change that meeting in terms with the standing orders.
It would also help if we could persuade another member to join the committee, because that would give us a lot more robustness. Although you think we've you know, with the number that we have, it's unlikely to ever happen again anyway.
And have we not grown since that happened? Yeah, exactly.
Yes, by one.
Yeah, so which reduces it perfect.
I've got that Sky, is it Sky Link being fitted in my trucks now?
I'm sorry,
I've got a satellite being fitted to my trucks now, Sky Link.
Oh, yeah.
So like, you can get on mobile, you know, caravannets and stuff.
Right. Have you-
But I've got a satellite being fitted to.
So you've got no excuse for not.
Well, no, the thing is, I am with O2, but I don't know if anyone else has found it, but lately, O2 signal around here has got worse and worse and worse, and I can't get out of my contract, they want £2,000 to get me out. So, I'm waiting for the contract so I can, but I'm trying to find a way.
Well, I mean, I think we'll take it on board, Jeremy, that there will be occasions when it's
Yeah, I know. I'm
possible
trying
to notify in good time, in advance.
I try not to work
of an absence.
Nowadays, I try not to work, I know, I try to stay local, that's what I try to do.
Let's agree where we go with this. We understand the quoracy situation. If we are fewer than 3, then the meeting will be suspended. That's the first thing. And no business will be carried out, and an alternative date will be sought. If there are members of the public there expecting to hear, or people listening or watching online expecting to hear progress about a particular application, then of course we would just heap apologies upon that. It's an unavoidable decision, and explain it. As far as prevention goes, if we can maybe think of some finger on the pulse kind of situation where, Richard, we can rely upon you to keep that finger on the pulse. If you think it's beginning to get a bit dodgy, then have a word and we'll see what we can do about it. Everybody happy with that? Yeah. Okay, don't know needs a resolution, but as long as we can all agree that we all understand where we are and how important it is. A, to keep to attendance, and B, to apologise at the earliest opportunity.
The other one that throws me out is at Christmas when we change the dates a little bit. Normally it's always the Wednesday or the Tuesday.
Yeah,
and then
true. Yeah.
I'll get it in the end.
We'll have it on Christmas Day, if it's
It's still a working day for me.
Okay, folks, that's great. Thanks for that. Is that okay?
Yes, yeah.
Right, so Richard, item 11, to reports from various sources.
Yes, so Appendix A, decisions that come down from Planning Authority. Not a lot on there, with the exception of DC 260051, which this committee raised an objection to, and Horsham District Council subsequently refused the application. Reasons for which are,
this was 5054, right?
0051. Construction of a warehouse to be split into 4 separate units.
Yeah.
Have a look at the drawing.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. There was no parking, no access, it was just.
They refused it.
They really refused it on all sorts of grounds, transport lanes, the fact that there was light industrial proposed in the middle of, it just went on and on.
Yes, four paragraphs.
That might be
reasons.
So that makes a change. To have an action so steadfastly refused.
Yeah, it was robust.
Otherwise, Chair, not much more to report on Appendix A.
Very good, thank you.
So no mention about the, obviously this is maybe West Street because there's quite a number of travellers, mobile units.
Yeah, it's
West Street. Yes, that's the other side of the 2133, so.
Yeah.
Scandalous, but
Yes, absolutely.
Moving to Appendix B, planning appeals. One has been decided, that's Denham's at Andrews Hill. That was the construction of a dwelling, one detached dwelling and 2 semi-detached dwellings, which I believe this committee did object to based on the fact it was in the next door to some listed properties.
it wasn't, it was going to overload the site.
It was a little terrace, weird, next to a listed building. And with lots of parking behind, which is off, which is off.
Whilst we're on Andrews Hill and completely out of order, but order of the agenda, but have you noticed that the milk vendor is in place?
Yeah.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, where we had an application to put
It's very
portico
close.
in.
Is that the one that chopped down on the trees?
They have done some clearance,
Some, yeah.
hedgerows, etc. It's now you can see it, but it's there. I don't know whether it's actually being used, but it's there. Sorry, Richard.
And finally, Appendix C, enforcement updates. 2 new enforcements. Condition of land adversely affecting the immunity of an area at 1 Forge Way, which is enforcement language for tidying your front garden. Followed by erection of a large building in the Garden Vale Planning Commission at the Coach House Road, Fold Grange. So that's somebody that's got caught out doing something about permission. Subsequently, only 1 closed enforcement, and that was Unit 28, because they received an application for the change of use, which we've discussed tonight.
Okay, all right. So still some of the older ones are
There's-
dragging on.
Yes.
Okay, lovely. Is that enough for that one, Richard? The A, B and C dealt with this. Excellent. So date of the next meeting is currently set for Tuesday, the 7th of July at 7 p.m. Unless there is a need for an extraordinary meeting, of course. And thanks to Richard's quick thinking today, there won't be any need.
Yes.
So, thank you folks. Meeting closes at 20:00.